The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra All right, family, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to another week of the GOCC Sabbath. Before we get into it, I first and foremost just want to make sure that everything is nice and clear. And with your confirmation, we'll jump right in. Right? So I know with the music, there was no audio for some reason, and everything was good on my side. I could hear everything and I could see the sound moving, but for the most part, you all are stating that you couldn't hear anything. So I just want to make sure that it's all clear as far as the sound you hear now. And with your confirmation, we'll jump right into it. Okay, the sound is great. Okay, all praise be to the Most High. All praise be to the Most High. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I first and foremost want to give all praise and honor to the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshai Warawak, for allowing us to come before you for another Sabbath lesson. This is Elder Lawyer officially filling in for Elder Ricard, who, if it be the Most High's will be with us tomorrow in the academy. But again, today I'm filling in for the elder, so let's jump right into it. Before we get into the lesson, I just have a few quick announcements in regards to both the academy as well as the I Am Royal Academy for the children. All right, as you all know, every Sunday we have our Hebrew and Bible Academy, which is taught by myself, Elder Ricard, and Elder Shapat in the news segment. Now, this week, our main lesson is going to be the breakdown of modern Christianity, and we're going to teach this like it's never been taught before. We have the lesson updated, the information updated, the actual documentation updated. So if you're interested in the academy, go to historytimes.org. And anything that you missed up until this point will be sent out. So you don't have to worry about any of the previous weeks, going back to week 1 all the way up to week number 8. All of that will be covered if you enroll going to historytimes.org, where you'll get all the information you need to become a part of this Hebrew and Bible Academy. We are officially going into week number 9, so we have a few weeks left. But nonetheless, we still have quite a bit in store, as well as some of the information that you may have missed in the past that you definitely want to get your hands on. You definitely want to be a part of. So again, go to historytimes.org and all the information you need to join will be there. Also, when it comes to our brand new, let's get to it, our brand new GOCC I Am Royal Academy. For those who don't know, this is a free, faith-based online homeschool for the children who are members of the Gathering of Christ Church. All right. All right. So this started a week or so ago. All right. And it's going off without a hitch. It's been very successful. And as we've mentioned, we believe some very bright, brilliant minds will come out of this particular homeschool program. And the beautiful thing about it is obviously you don't have to worry about the intrusion, the intellectual intrusion with different things being taught to your children that you do not believe, things that you don't want exposed to your children. And you also don't have to worry about the physical imposition upon your children when it comes to certain procedures that they are not necessarily forced, but they are compelled, strongly compelled to take in their current schooling, okay, public schooling, where they'll tell your children that without certain procedures, medical procedures, they cannot come to school, so on and so forth. And we know the issues that that presents for parents. So again, this is the I Am Royal GOCC Academy. If you would like to donate to support the upkeep and the running of this particular school, it is free from the church. The church made sure that it was offered free for parents, but we do accept donations for those who would like to support this so that it can maintain and continue to run. So go to gocc.org, okay, gatheringofchrist.org, And we do have a section on the website for donations. Okay, when you click on donate, it takes you to the various areas or shows you the various things that you can donate to. One of which being the I Am Royal Academy. We have Elder Ricard Shiar's online classes, your local congregation types and offerings. We have bereavement fund to assist with funeral costs for those who may have lost loved ones within the ministry, the church. We have disaster relief and emergency supplies, or any other purpose you would like to donate to. Right? You can make sure you put it in the comment section, and it will go specifically to what you address it to. Right? So, as the elder have stated many times, these particular donations that you see here do not go to myself at Elder Ricard Shiar unless you decide to donate and you say specifically, I want to donate to Elder Ricard Shiar. Okay? That's the only time the elder receives any of what you see here. Outside of that, everything goes specifically to where it is designated. So if it's for the school, the home school, it will go directly to the home school. If it's for bereavement or if it's for your local congregation, it will be assigned specifically to your local congregation. Okay? Now, before we get into it, let me make sure we're clear. A lot of people, or at least one person, stated that the sound is in and out. So let me make sure we're good before we continue. All right, let me make sure we're good before we continue. I don't want any persistent issues throughout the course of this lesson. I want to make sure we get this thing off without a hitch. Right? Someone said the sound is good on their end. The video is not on time. Okay? All right, everything is clear. Yes, whatever you decide to, if you want to offer a donation for a local minister, you can do so. Okay? You just have to make sure you assign it as such when you make the donation. All right, sound is good and consistent. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. All right, so the topic for today's discussion is the gods of the nations are idols. Is AI the new golden calf? Now, some of you may be wondering what route we're going to take with this lesson. Well, you'll get that understanding as we progress. But I do want to make a disclaimer before jumping in. And I'm going to illustrate this disclaimer by providing some examples leading up to our current time. All right, so let's take a look at our screen. Let's take a look at our screen. And let's go through a little bit of history concerning technology and how in different eras people perceived or viewed the new technological developments of their time. Okay, so this is from LinkedIn.com. Again, this is from LinkedIn.com. And the name of this article is Demons in the Wires. How electricity faced fear, myths, and reluctant adoption. Demons in the Wires. How electricity faced fear, myths, and reluctant adoption. I'm going to read a little bit of this, and again, this is to make a point. I'm illustrating this point with some examples, again, leading us to today, but also using this to make a disclaimer about AI. Okay? Because I don't want anyone to lose it or pull their hair out based on their use of AI. Many people may work for companies in which they are actually involved in the development of AI, okay, or a company that heavily uses AI. Many of you, based on your work or just, in everyday, based on the level of technology we have and the convenience of it, many of us use AI on a daily basis. So I don't want any of us to lose it or to misconstrue the message that's coming forward today when we ask the question, is AI the new golden calf? Right? All right, so let's get into it. So again, the article is Demons in the Wires: How Electricity Faced Fear, Myths, and Reluctant Adoption. Today we flip a switch without a second thought. But less than 150 years ago, the same switch was a source of mystery, fear, and public resistance. The question is why? Why did people fear electricity? The invention of electricity didn't just light up our cities. It lit a fire of discomfort that humans felt back when the future seemed too fast for them. So, as I'm reading this, a lot of this may sound familiar. You're going to find out that many things that, or many of the ideas that come to mind when we think about the advancement of technology in our time and the concerns we may have when it comes to the speed at which technology is advancing before us, they had some of the same exact fears back then. Right? So, reading on, it says here, why was there a shock about this new thing? Meaning, why were people shocked with this new invention called electricity? Electricity didn't come out of nowhere. As far back as 600 BCE, Greek philosopher Thales of Miletus noticed that rubbing amber could attract feathers, an early observation of static electricity. Fast forward to Benjamin Franklin's kite experience in 1752 and Alexandro Volta's first battery in 1800. Hence, that's where we get the term volt from. We start to see the shift from theory to technology. And let me just make sure I enlarge this so y'all can see it nice and clear. Okay. But it wasn't until the 1880s that electricity moved from laboratory experience into the real world as power. And that's when people became upset. Check this out. A mysterious force or something more sinister. When electric lights first appeared in cities, they made buzzing noises and flickered. People were suspicious, and that led them to be spooked. In some communities, street lamps were called devil's fire or witch's light. So there was a time in which electricity, the same exact electricity that I'm using to communicate with you right now and at this very moment, there was a time in which people viewed it as the devil's work, the devil's technology. There was a time in which electricity was viewed as witchcraft, sorcery, wizardry. When you get the opportunity, go back and view some of the documentaries on Nikola Tesla. Okay? Go back and view some of the documentaries on Thomas Edison. And you'll get the sense, they'll reveal some of the concerns and the fears, exactly as this article is doing, of the people of that time. And how, again, how they view this new burgeoning technology. Right? And how it was shaping and reshaping society at that time. right? So it says stories spread that spirits were trapped in wires or that demons lived inside the walls. This is what they believe concerning electricity. Now, are they 100% off? No. And I'm going to explain why. And again, I'm not saying this so that now you can become afraid of electricity or think that you are a wizard or a sorcerer or an idolater for using electricity. That's not the point. The point is that with some of the examples I'm going to show you, all of these eventually culminated to what we see now. Whereas the society we see now, where people have this, I would say, rightful concern or even a rightful fear of where the world is going with AI, right? This wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for these technologies we see here. Okay? So it says stories spread that spirits were trapped in wires. So they thought literally that there were spirits transmitting energy in the wires. Okay? Or that demons lived inside the walls, waiting to burst out as fire and death. Even rational folk couldn't help but wonder if this invisible force could be trusted. It wasn't totally irrational. Early systems were dangerous. Arc light could expose. Exposed wires shocked people. And then came the electric chair, invented ironically to smear the reputation of alternating current. And I believe alternating current, that's what Nikola Tesla was, that's what he was bringing forward with his technology, AC or alternating current. In fact, they explained it down here, the war of the currents. Behind the scenes, two giants were battling it out. Thomas Edison, the face of direct current, or DC, fought to dominate the market and maintain control. Nikola Tesla, with the backing from George Westinghouse, championed alternating current, or AC, which was more efficient but less understood by the public. All right, now this is a whole nother conversation. Let's move on to the next thing. 9 times in history, when everyone freaked out about new technology. Right? Some of you may think that your concerns about the technologies in your time are new concerns. But the Bible tells us what? That there is nothing new under the sun. The same fears or concerns you may have, they had back then with some of the things that were popping up on the scene in their time. And again, I'm using this to make a point. Y'all follow me, Con? Y'all follow me thus far, Con? Yes? Okay, great. So we're just going to go through it. In fact, let me read this real quick. It says technology has given us everything from smart TVs that can hear you talking to self-driving cars. But before we became the digitally driven society we are today, fear of new technology commonly served as one of the greatest threats to innovation. What we see as dated and relatively harmless inventions of the past were once the new technology that people freaked out about. So let's get some examples. So it says here, people believed trains would rip you apart in 1825. The human body can travel only so fast before a person becomes fatally injured. While this is true, the speeds needed to harm the body are faster or far faster than 30 miles per hour. Back in 1825, nobody knew that. When the Stockton-Darlington Railway opened that year, people insisted trains were an unsafe mode of transportation for people. Cultural anthropologist Genevieve Bell explained to the Wall Street Journal that critics of trains believed people would fall victim to gruesome deaths. So they thought that trains would go so fast that they would cause people to rip apart and eventually disintegrate. Right? Now, obviously, trains do have their safety concerns, but I don't think any of us, when we get on a train, we think that the train is going to go so fast that the speed is going to cause us to split in half. Right? Moving on. The New York Times attacked the telephone in the late 1800s. We now live in a world where 5 minutes without a cell phone seems like an eternity. So it's hard to imagine that at one point, many people wanted nothing to do with telephones at all. So we think that there are concerns with the smartphone, right? We're going back to the original telephones that were created. And people were concerned about those original telephones, right? Which for us are so archaic. I mean, that's all we knew growing up. All we knew was what? Either the rotary phone where you had the rotary dial or your basic everyday landline phone, right? If you had a phone that could produce a speaker or a phone with a speaker where you could speak over a speaker on the phone, for us at some point, that was a new technological advancement. Caller ID at one point was a new technological advancement. Now, caller ID, that's just basic. That's default. Every phone has some level of caller ID. In fact, you have the ability to document and save numbers in your phone so that you can know exactly who's calling you. But back then, if you had that caller ID, that was seen as advancement. Okay? That was seen as technology moving forward. Okay? The ability to call people back. What was it? I believe that was what? Star 69, where you can call somebody back. These were all things that, as we seen coming up, it seemed like these were new things that were being introduced that allowed us to better use the cell phone or get the most, not the cell phone, at this time, the landline phone. Okay? Exactly. You was doing big things if you had a caller ID. A pager, right? You was doing big things if this was some of the technology you had access to. Right? But going back to this time in the 1800s, they thought and believed that the telephone was problematic. Okay? So it says when telephones were introduced in the late 1800s, the New York Times was quick to attack. The paper's critique of the technology included suggesting that phones would only be used to invade people's privacy. So, were they 100% off? No. Back in the 1800s, when the technology was nowhere near advanced as we see now, they even thought and believed that the technology would be used to invade people's privacy. And what has been the biggest concern when we talk about smartphones is the fact that nothing you do on your phone is private. Everything on your phone is being monitored. That's the concern. But they had these concerns going back to the 1800s when really, as far as we know, they didn't have the ability to really monitor too much when it came to the phone. Not like they do today. Not saying it was totally impossible, but today it's on a whole nother level. Right? So it says the paper's critique of the technology included the suggestion that telephones would only be used to invade people's privacy. One contributor even went so far as to say that the telephone introduced society to a slippery slope where we would be nothing but transparent heaps of jelly to each other. Meaning, eventually, through the use of the cell phone, we would get so connected to the idea of communicating over this device, this not the cell phone. Excuse me, I keep saying cell phone because it's so embedded in our minds, right? This thing you see this guy using right here. You see that? That old school ancient telephone, right? They said that one person believed that things would get to the point where we would get so used to communicating over this that we would lose human interaction and that we would no longer value human interaction or that we would no longer value the company of people. Now, again, were they 100% off to believe so? Well, look at where things are today. Now, if it wasn't for this, now it may have not happened with this era of telephone. People still communicated face to face. People still enjoyed each other's company, so on and so forth. We didn't lose the human touch with the invention of this telephone. But you fast forward till today. If it wasn't for this telephone, we wouldn't have this phone. And it's this phone, this iteration of the phone, that has gotten us to the point where now we are losing the value of human interaction. We're losing the value of communicating face to face. Where now we see people not as people, but as this person put it, as heaps, transparent heaps of jelly to each other. That's how they explained it. In other words, you would see a person as worthless or human interaction as worthless only if it's being conducted or not being conducted through this phone. Now, through this phone, I mean this makes people seem like, diamonds and rubies. It makes everyone seem, so grand. But to speak to that same person in person, it's like the interaction is different. It's not the same as communicating with somebody through some form of technology. Right? So they had their fears, they had their concerns, none of which really materialized in their time. But either the fear was so great for them in their time that they, all of the concerns were only short-sighted and all they saw was their time, or maybe, just maybe, they could see where things eventually would go through time. Okay? Maybe they could see a window into the future as to where this would potentially go, because technology, as we all know, it never stays in one space. The desire for anyone who creates any form of technology is for that technology, that device, to eventually advance to the next level. Right? So, who knows? Nonetheless, again, I'm using this to make a point. I'm about to get off this point very soon. But I'm just illustrating, right? Other attacks on the telephone insisted that it would make society lazy and antisocial. Is that not what we see today? Right? Lazy and antisocial. And some even claimed the new technology would be used to communicate with the dead. Okay? So this is how they're able to demonize the people who had these concerns and cast off their concerns as the musings of a madman or the musings of a mad woman. When in reality, outside of that, I don't know of anyone, Salakia, I don't know of anyone who has used the phone to communicate with the dead. I don't know if you all know, but I'm not sure if I've spoken to anyone or had interaction with anyone who was able to speak with the dead through a phone. right? However, I do know of people who, through the phone, have become lazy, have become antisocial, so on and so forth. But you see how, again, they use that one concern, which is outrageous and outlandish, to now cast away the other real concerns, which really are what we are would have materialized into our existence. Moving on, let's get some more examples. So, Spectator magazine bashed the telegraph, right? Even the inventor of the radio criticized it in 1940. Does that now not sound familiar? Where you have those who are responsible for the development of AI and are at the forefront of the advancement of AI, coming out at the same time criticizing it. Okay? Well, the same thing happened back then. The fear that surrounded the invention of the radio is particularly interesting. While all the items on the list share a common denominator, being feared by the general population, to which the radio was no stranger either. The radio was feared by its own inventor as well. Again, same thing today. You have those who are at the forefront of AI technology stating at the same time that they are afraid, even though they believe that it will be helpful for humanity, an excuse they always use or a talking point they always use. They also mention where things can go wrong, right? And how detrimental this new technology could be if we're not careful, right? Someone says some people do use it to communicate with the dead. Relatives have left people's phone lines on after they pass and leave the voicemail on. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just somebody wanting the memory of someone that's passed away. Like, you know, let's say hypothetically, God forbid, your mother passed away. You still have her cell phone. She got the voicemail on the cell phone. Every so often, you want to play it to just to hear your mother's voice. That's one thing. But I mean, actually picking up the cell phone and speaking to your mother who is deceased, or speaking to your cousin who is deceased. That's the level I'm talking about. Okay. But moving on, it says here, Guglielmo Marconi believed that he had perfected wireless technology back in 1895. But more than 2 decades would go before Marconi's technology would be used to broadcast to the masses, rather than just one other individual. This would make Marconi second guess his technological contribution. Salakia, excuse me. In an undelivered speech given to Sir James Irvine, and later referred to in an article published by the Herald in 1940, Marconi asked himself if he had done the world good or just added a menace. Marconi explained that he only intended for his invention to improve communication between ships at sea. So that was his intent for the creation of the technology. Even he never saw the true potential the radio introduced in terms of broadcasting content across an entire region. The television. This is the last one we're going to get. The television, even scarier than radio. Everything people feared about the radio was amplified with the introduction of television in 1927. There was a fear that radio would turn people away from reading or having intimate conversations with one another. The television received the very same critique. Media historian Ellen Wertella told Slate that critics of the television insisted that it would hurt radio, conversation, reading, and patterns of family living and result in the further vulgarization of American culture. All of which the television has done. Okay, the television has introduced non family values. The television has introduced harmful lifestyles that destroy individuals, families, communities, so on and so forth. So it did come to pass. The concerns did come to pass. But now here's the question. Now there's some more examples. You can go and catch this article on your own time. If you would like, again, the name of the article, 9 Times in History When Everyone Freaked Out About New Technology. Right? Here's an article on the barcode. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this one, but many of you may know, many of you may not know, that there was a time in history in which people believed that the barcode was the mark of the beast. When I say the barcode, meaning the barcode that's on all of the products that you purchase at the grocery store. There was a time in which people believed that that was, in fact, the mark of the beast. Now, is it the mark of the beast? No. However, again, the technology eventually progressed to the point where we are now, in which we're moving a step closer, or at least it brought us a step closer to the mark of the beast society. Same thing with the social security number. There were people who believed that that was the mark of the beast. Is the social security number the mark of the beast? No. But again, these are steps leading us to the mark of the beast society. So now, what is the overall point that I'm trying to make in regards to the topic of today's discussion? Again, the gods of the nations are idols. Is AI the new golden calf? What is the point I'm trying to make? Well, when I say is AI the new golden calf, and I'm going to explain what that means. Am I stating that by using AI, that you are an idolater? The answer is no. No different than if you were to use electricity, you are not a sorcerer. You are not a wizard. You are not a witch. No different than if you were to use what? Your cell phone. You're not a sorcerer or a witch for doing so. Even though people back then, if they were brought into this time, they would believe that you were some type of wizard. If you were exercising and using the various aspects of your cell phone, the fact that you can pull up a phone and see somebody across the world in real time. The fact that you can, even right now, the way we're communicating right now, people from the past would look at this and believe that somehow, some way, this must be witchcraft. This must be sorcery. Right? Would they be 100% wrong in their assessment? No. But are we sorcerers and idolaters for using the technology? The answer is no. And that's the point I want to ultimately make before going into this lesson, because I don't want this message to fall upon anyone and believe that if they work in the field of AI, if you use AI on a daily basis, that you are an idolater, that you are just like our forefathers in the wilderness who worshiped the golden calf. That's not the intent of the message. So real quick, if we can go to the book of Romans 8 and 28. The book of Romans 8 and verse number 28. Okay, let me pull up the Bible. Let's see what the Bible says about us using what people may call the devil's technology. Right? Let's see what the Bible says. Romans 8 and 28. One moment as I pull up the Bible. I'm going to give some examples. And let's get this as well. Okay, I got everything I need. Okay, so let's go to Romans 8 and verse number 28. Open up your Bible and write these down. All right, let's get it. Let's make a few adjustments. In fact, let me make it simple. Let me go with eastward to make this simple. Romans 8 and 28. All right, just give me a moment. I have to make some adjustments here for the visual. Okay, that should be good. Let me enlarge it. All right, Romans 8 and 28. Check this out. It says, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that love God. I'm going to read this again. And we know that all things work together for the good or for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Now, who are they that love God? Well, we know according, if I can pull this up very quickly, and I'm going to come back to this and further explain how this relates to what I'm bringing out. But let's go to the book of 1 John 5 and 3 to get the understanding of who they are that love God. 1 John 5 and 3 says, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So we understand that they who love God are they that keep his commandments. So going back to Romans 8 and 28, it says here, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. So why are we going here? Let's go to another scripture very quickly. In the book of Sirach, 39th chapter. Right? Because what we're showing is that regardless of what they create the technology for, those who love the Most High, those who fear God and keep his commandments, will use that same exact technology for good. Regardless of what they created the internet for, those who love God will use the technology for good. Those who may use the technology, or they may have created the technology to turn people away from God. They may have used the technology or created the technology to turn people away from dependency on God. The reality is that it doesn't matter. Those who love the Most High, those who keep his commandments, will use that same exact technology for good. If they use it to exalt Satan, we'll use it to praise the Most High and to tear Satan's kingdom down. And I'm using the example of the internet. It could be any other technology, your cell phone. The cell phone can be used for evil. But for those who love God, they will find a way to use that cell phone for good. Simple and plain. The AI technology. We know ultimately there's a reason and a purpose behind why they're creating AI and developing AI. We know that it's ultimately to create what we know the Bible calls the mark of the beast system. But for those who love the Most High, for those who keep his commandments, they're going to find a way to use that AI for good. Simple and plain. So let's go to the book of Sirach 39. And we read this the other day. Sirach 39. And let's jump to verse number 26. I'm going to give you all some examples. All right, this is the Apocrypha, the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus in the KJV Apocrypha, right after the Wisdom of Solomon. Okay? Am I clear thus far? Y'all understand thus far where we're going? Con? Yes? All right. Let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 39, and verse number, let's get the exact verse. Let's start at verse number 26. The principal things for the use, in fact, let me start at verse number 25. For the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners. The principal things for the use of whole man's life are water. Now, water was created for life. It's a necessity. Man cannot live without water. So for the good, water is used for good. But that same water for the wicked can be turned for use of wickedness, for use of evil. Okay? An evil person will take the same water that's supposed to be used for good and use it to poison people, make people sick, make people ill. Do we now demonize water because someone came along and decided that they're going to use what's made for good and use it for wickedness? No. Okay? Same thing on the flip side. There may be things that are made for nefarious reasons. There may be technologies created for nefarious reasons. But again, for those who fear the Most High, for those who love the Most High, they'll take that same technology and use it for something useful. They'll use it to tear down the same exact kingdom that you would attribute the creation of that technology to. Okay? Someone said weather warfare, people using water. Water, again, it's a good thing. The Most High created it for our good. But the wicked may come along and use it for something evil, like weather modification, causing storms, floods, devastation. Right? Fire. Now, fire is a great thing. Without fire, we can't cook our food. Without fire, we can't keep our homes warm. Okay? There's a lot of things that function with fire. Without fire, you can't purify metals. Without fire, you can't create or shape metals. Okay? And I'm talking about useful metals that are needed for the everyday use of mankind's life. Okay? Knives, forks, spoons. Okay? Things that are needed to build homes, and all of that involves or needs fire. Fire is a necessity. Now, an evil person can take the same fire that is created for the good of man and use it for evil. Right? Same thing with iron. Salt. Salt is a wonderful thing. But you got something called table salt, which is destructive to one's health. Now, do we demonize salt and say that, hey, we shouldn't use salt because the enemy is using salt to poison people or bad salt to poison people? The answer is no. And when you get the opportunity, Elder Ramar did a wonderful presentation yesterday on salt. I suggest you go and watch that presentation under GOCC Fit. Okay? So, as we move on, flour of wheat. Wheat is a wonderful thing. But again, the evil, the wicked, those who hate God, have found a way to contaminate the wheat, to misuse the wheat, to where that same wheat, which was used as a necessity for life, to create healthful bread to keep us nourished and strong. You can go on your shelves and find wheat that's been so cross-contaminated and spliced and genetically modified that it'll make you sick. Okay? Honey. Honey is a wonderful thing. But again, the enemy is a deceiver. He'll have something sitting on a shelf labeled as honey, but won't have one drop of honey in it. Okay? Pure sugar. Do we now demonize honey and say that we shouldn't use honey because the enemy is demonizing honey? Or the enemy is misusing the label of honey to now sell things that are detrimental to our health? The answer is no. Same thing with the blood of the grape, same thing with milk. Okay? Many people abstain from milk based on what's going on with the dairy industry and how milk is produced. I'm talking about the commercially accessible milk, how that's produced. Okay, so to the point where people have demonized milk as an evil thing, that you shouldn't touch milk. But there are things such as what? Raw milk, which we have drunk and have used for centuries for our health and well-being. It tells us in the book of Genesis 49, when it speaks about the Messiah, it says that what? His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth shall be white with milk. Milk is a wonderful thing. But again, the enemy, the evil, putting their hands to work to contaminate and destroy the Most High's creation, does what? He produces milk that is no good for human consumption, and the way that they extract the milk from the cow is no good for the cow. Right? Same thing with the blood of the grape. Same thing with wine. Wine is a wonderful thing. Right? Wine maketh the heart merry. The Bible speaks about a person who is a master of a feast, meaning you are, what do they call it? A host of a feast. And one of the things that it says for the host or the master of a feast is to make sure that there's good wine at the party, that there's good wine at the feast. Christ, at a marriage ceremony, turned water into wine. Wine is a beautiful thing. But again, you get somebody who has no discipline, no self-control, what happens? They will misuse the wine to the point where people will start to demonize wine and say that wine is evil. You can't have wine. You can't have alcohol, or you shouldn't drink alcohol because people get drunk. Well, that wasn't the intention of the reason why. That wasn't the Most High's intent when he gave us the blood of the grape. Again, it says, wine maketh the heart merry. Wine has a good purpose. Not to mention there's medicinal uses for alcohol, right? So on and so forth. But again, for the wicked, these things are turned for evil, as we're about to see, right? Same thing with oil. We discussed this the other day. The contamination of various oils that are not fit for our consumption. Clothing. Now the clothing has become an enemy. Where now they're creating all these weird fabrics with microplastics and various things in the fabrics that can make you sick. Now, do we demonize clothing because the enemy has poisoned and has contaminated the clothing? The answer is no. Okay, someone said red color added to meat. Meat is a beautiful thing. Okay, but it's gotten to the point where the evil, again, doing his will in the earth, doing the will of Satan in the earth, They've done the meat industry so bad that people have created a whole new religion called veganism to avoid consuming animal products because they understand the abuses that animals go through in order for the meat to go from the slaughterhouse, from the farm to the slaughterhouse to our plates. Now, again, is there anything wrong with being a vegan? Absolutely not. But as the Bible says, he that eateth, meaning he that eats meat, despise him or despise not him that eateth not. And he that does not eat meat, he that is a vegan or a vegetarian, don't despise him that eats meat. Okay, so it's a two-way street. Right? So meat eating, if you eat meat, you're not sinning. Right? If you eat clean meat that is prescribed by the Most High's dietary law, you are not sinning. The same way if you decide to abstain from meat, you are not sinning. Okay? So now check this out. Here's the key point. And I'm going to give one more example before we move forward. All these things are for the good, or for good to the godly. Again, all these things are for good to the godly, meaning everything that was just described is for good or is used for good for the godly. So to the sinners are they turned into evil. Right? For the evil, these same things that are a benefit for mankind can be a detriment. And the same thing goes for technology. Same thing goes for technology. Yes? One more example. Let's go to the book of Enoch. One more example. The book of Enoch, chapter 8 and verse 1. And I want to drive this point home because, again, I don't want anyone to lose their hat. I don't want anyone to pull out their hair because they believe that we're saying or teaching that to use technological advancements such as AI, such as smart technology, it makes you, it makes you an idolater. It makes you a sorcerer or a wizard. Let me give you an example. The book of Enoch states, and Azazel. Now, who is Azazel? Azazel is one of the 200 fallen angels who descended upon the earth in the time of Jared, leading up to the time of Enoch. And eventually, through their sin, and their sin is described and documented in the book of Genesis, the 6th chapter. Through their sin, the flood was set upon the earth to judge the earth. And it was Azazel that was one of the angels who taught various practices unto mankind that eventually led not only to the detriment of mankind, but mankind's utter destruction through the flood. And we know that out of that flood, only 8 souls were saved, those 8 souls being Noah, his sons, and their wives. Right? So now Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all costly kinds of stones, or all kinds of costly stones. Now, why am I going here? The book of Enoch attributes the creation of swords, knives, shields, breastplates, jewelry, to the teachings of the fallen angels. Yet, we also see in the Bible men such as Gideon, men such as King David. Even Christ himself is described as what? Coming back into the earth with a sword. David, described as a great man of war who defeated all of the enemies of God using what? The sword, the shield, the breastplate. Gideon. How did the Most High bless Gideon? When Gideon was at war, the Most High allowed the sword to be affixed to Gideon's hand so that he would not drop his sword. So yes, are these various weapons and technologies and even the jewelry, which is described in the Bible, which even when you look at the high priest, you look at the high priest garments, which involve the use of what? Jewels, costly stones. He says that he gave this to the priest, the high priest, for what? For glory and for beauty. The Bible speaks, okay, in depth of the use of costly stones and weapons and things of that nature. Right? So even though the book of Enoch attributes it to the teachings that were taught by the fallen angels, we know that all things are created, or all things are made for the good of those who love the Most High. They were created for one purpose, but the Most High allowed it to be used for his purpose. Okay? And that's not the point I'm getting to. Somebody says never make jewelry. That's not, I think I'm trying to give the opposite of that point. The opposite of that point is that, yes, the information was attributed to the teachings of the fallen angels according to the book of Enoch. But yet you can go in the Bible and see where the Most High, where he describes Israel as his wife in the book of Ezekiel 16. And he describes all of the beautiful jewels that he gave unto his wife. When the Most High sent the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, he told them to spoil the Egyptians. Take from them gold and take from them jewels and earrings, costly stones, right? So again, it goes back to what we read earlier in the book of Romans 8 and 28. So now, moving on to our next point. Again, the point is that you're not a witch, a warlock, or an idolater for using technology. I want to make that clear. So now, getting on to our next point, what is AI? Let's see if we can get a brief explanation of what AI is. This is coming from IBM. This is coming from IBM. All right. Before I move forward, let me make sure you all are clear. Yes? I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I don't want anyone to leave this with the wrong idea. As when someone stated, and now the kingdom is made with these priceless stones. Okay? I mean, there's countless examples. I'll be here all day recounting all of the examples in the Bible in which costly stones are used. When you look at the breastplate of the priest, what does it have? Costly stones. Okay? When you look at the description of the kingdom, as someone just stated, what does it recount? Or what does it tell us? That the kingdom will be built up with costly stones. The diamond, the beryl, okay, the jasper, the chrysostome, and all of these various precious stones and metals that, again, the book of Enoch attributes to something being taught to mankind through the fallen angels. But you have to remember, a lot of these things the fallen angels taught, these were secrets that, and we're going to get into this a bit later, some of these were secrets that the Most High would eventually reveal to mankind in due time. Okay? But they put it out there and they introduced the technology and they introduced certain things to mankind prematurely and with the purpose of misusing a lot of the things that, that they taught to mankind. Like, again, fire is a wonderful thing. But the same way a person can teach you to use fire to purify metals, to cook your food, someone can teach you how to use that same exact fire to commit arson. Okay? To burn people alive. Right? So the Most High's intent was to reveal certain things in due time with the proper perspective. But the fallen angels, they knew that in order for them to get influence over mankind, they had to give them something. They had to give them knowledge. They had to give them resources and information that mankind always desired to have. So that now the allegiance of man would no longer be to the Most High. It would be to these angels who revealed to them this quote unquote secret knowledge. Okay? All right, let me move on. All right, what is AI? This is from IBM. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence, or AI, is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. I'm going to read this again. Artificial intelligence is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning. So this is artificial intelligence. We know that artificial meaning something that is artificed, something that is created, something that is formed. And usually when we think of artificial, we think of fake. Okay? We think of a copy, a carbon copy. Okay? So this is artificial intelligence. Now, what is this artificial intelligence trying to mimic? What is it trying to copy? What is it a carbon copy of? Well, it's meant to simulate human learning. So it's a carbon copy or a simulation of human intelligence. So it's used to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. So if artificial intelligence is being created to simulate our creativity, our intellect, our ability to solve problems, our ability to comprehend. The question is, where did we get all of those things from? Where did we derive our ability to comprehend, to reason, to solve problems? Before we answer that question, let's first go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse number 26. Genesis 1 and 26, because the artificial intelligence is being created in our image, in our likeness. It's trying to replicate what we're able to do, how we're able to think, how we're able to reason, comprehend. It's made in our image and likeness. But whose image and likeness are we made in? Let's see, the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse number 26. Genesis 1 and verse 26. And it says here, and God said, this is the creator, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God, this is verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. So because we are created in the image and likeness of God, we possess some of the qualities of God. Okay? We possess some of the traits and the qualities of God. No different than a son contains some or obtains some of the qualities and traits of his father. Right? So let's get some examples. Going to the book of Isaiah 55 and verse number 8, because we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is a simulation or an attempt to replicate human intelligence. But again, where do we get our intelligence from? And why is our intelligence so great that now they're looking to impart this intelligence into a machine, a man-made machine? Right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah 55 and verse 8. And let's talk about the supreme intellect. Let's talk about the supreme intelligence, which is the Most High God. In the book of Isaiah 55 and verse number 8, it says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So the Most High is the supreme intelligence. He is the supreme intellect. And it's from his intelligence, it's from his likeness, it's from his image that we derive our intellect, that we derive our likeness, that we derive our image. It comes from our Father who is in heaven. So again, Isaiah 55 and 8 says that my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. So even though the Most High is the supreme intellect, his thoughts and his way of thinking is way above anything that we can even imagine, anything that we can even comprehend. Notice it says that my thoughts are not your thoughts, meaning what? Even though our thoughts are not on the level of the Most High, we still have the ability to produce thoughts. We still have the ability to think. We still have the ability to comprehend, to solve problems, and to create. With the small level of intellect that we receive from the Most High. So my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. You're not as intelligent, or you're not on the level of me, the supreme intelligence, but nonetheless, you do have the ability to think. You do have thoughts. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Right? So we're talking about the supreme intelligence, the most high God, whose name is Ahaya. Okay? He is the supreme intellect, the supreme intelligence. And it's from him that we derive our intelligence. And now they're creating machines which are attempting to take some of that intelligence that the Most High has imparted into us and now impart that same intelligence and thought process into these machines. Right? So now let's get into our ability to reason, our ability to comprehend, our ability to obtain knowledge and information. Right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 1, verse number 16. Isaiah 1 and 16 says, Isaiah 1 and 16. Wash you, make you clean, put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes, cease to do evil, learn to do well. So, yes, we have the ability and capability to learn. We have the ability to do what? To take in new information. And now to take in that new information to do what? To make better choices. Right? And that's the same ability that they're trying to impart in artificial intelligence. This is part of our intelligence, the ability to learn and to take all that you've learned to now give you a perspective from which you can now make choices. That's a part of our intellect, our intelligence that was given us by the Most High. But again, now it's being imparted into a machine. A machine, mind you, that's created out of the mind of man. A machine that's created by the hands of man. Right? Does that sound familiar? We'll see. Jumping down to verse 18, it says, Come now and let us reason together, saith the Lord. So now the Most High is asking his creation, mankind, who he made in his likeness and his image, to whom he imparted wisdom and understanding. He's asking that same exact man to do what? To reason with him. Which means what? If the Most High is asking us to reason with him, the Most High must expect us to have the what? The ability to reason. Why would the Most High think that? Why would the Most High believe that we have the ability to reason? Well, he created us and gave us that ability. I'm going to show you when he gave us that ability. But before we do so, let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 41 and 21. Isaiah 41 and 21. Isaiah 41 and 21 says, Produce your cause, saith the Lord, bring forth your strong reason, saying the God of Jacob. So again, the Most High expects us to possess the ability to reason. Right? So when we go back to what IBM is stating, let's go back to IBM. When we go back to IBM, and IBM is stating that artificial intelligence is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. These are all qualities that mankind, the same mankind that artificial intelligence is trying to mimic, These are all qualities that we received from the Most High. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I'm going to hold my tongue. I'm about to say something, but I want to put the cart before the horse in regards to how this same technology that receives its understanding and its traits from men who receive their traits from God. Now we're going to see an example of this technology not only trying to rival the man that created it, but also trying to rival the God that created man, that created it. I know it's a mouthful. I know it sounds a little strange and out there, but hopefully you all get the point. Again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We'll get into that in a few moments. But if we're talking about the intelligence that we receive from the Most High, when did the Most High give it to us? Real quick, let's go to the book of Sirach. Okay. Elder Yarack said, impossible giants didn't exist before Adam or Abel, who clearly ate meat. Please don't type the giants question again. Okay. All right. So you must be addressing someone that's in the chat. Shabbat shalom to Elder Yarack, as well as Elder Dale, the water for your assistance. Okay. So yes, I know a lot of people, when we get into these topics, this is why I have to make disclaimers. This is why I have to illustrate certain points. This is why sometimes when we want to just come on and do a lesson and get it over with, we find ourselves having to constantly repeat ourselves and qualify certain points, because we know if we don't, people will take little pieces of what we say and create ideas out of it, or try to use it to support ideas that we're not trying to impart. We're not trying to impart certain ideas, right? So I have to explain why where we stand when it comes to technology and the use of it. Because I know some people will hear this, and some people are already thinking in their minds and creating a doctrine within themselves stating that what? If you use certain technology, then, certain technology is the mark of the beast. If you use certain technology, the Most High is not dealing with you, so on and so forth. We know these things are working in people's minds, so we have to qualify and quantify certain points to make sure that you don't leave with a message that we're not teaching. Okay? I want to make that clear. Lady D says, if AI is dependent on our limited intelligence and we're supposed to depend on it, what a sad state of affairs. I couldn't have said it any better. Okay? What a sad state of affairs. When now and I know it sounds strange. Again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but this is not the first time that mankind has put his trust in something that he created. It's not the first time that mankind has put his trust in something that obviously he has more intelligence than. If the thing, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. Let me get to the next point. Okay, we're going to get into that later. All right. Moving on. Let's go to Sirach. Let's go back to Sirach chapter 17. Right? And let's show when the Most High imparted into us these capabilities, these special capabilities that we possess, which, mind you, when you think about this, a lot of people that push the whole thing with AI, they believe in evolution. And through evolution, they believe that mankind is nothing more than an inconsiderable mass that's just that's got lucky and evolved over time, and there's nothing special about mankind. Right? But at the same time, if mankind is this inconsiderable thing that just got lucky and evolved over time, and all of these various things that they teach concerning life, which aren't true, which are lies from the pits of hell, how can you now turn around and give all of this credence to something that you have created, and you're now imparting your intelligence, the intelligence that you can now take credit for? after creating this technology and now giving it the ability to be eventually autonomous. Okay? The same man that you claim is inconsiderable is the same man that is creating this amazing, regardless of what you think about it, regardless of what you think about the technology, it's an amazing feat. So, what does that tell you about the man that created it? Okay. So, moving on, let's go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon 17. I don't want to be here too long. I don't want to hold you all too long. So let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 17 and verse number 1. Check this out. The Lord created man out of the earth and turned him into it again, which shows you the power and wisdom of the Most High. How his greatest creation came from the lowest of creation. What do I mean? Genesis 2 and 7 states that what? The Most High created man out of the dust of the ground. Dust is the lowest creation of earth, or the lowest creation on earth. You don't get no lower than dust. But yet the Most High took that same dust and used it to make his greatest creation, which is mankind. And let's see what the Most High did with that man that he created out of the earth, out of the lowest part of the earth. He created him out of the earth and turned him into it again. He gave them a few days and a short time and power over all things therein. So now the Most High gave us power to exercise the wisdom and intelligence that he gave us. So it's not like we were supposed to remain in the Stone Ages, so to speak. All right. Many people think that, there shouldn't be any level of advancements. The Most High gave us wisdom and understanding and intelligence to create on this earth the same way he created from the beginning. In the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth. By his wisdom did the Most High create the heavens and the earth. The Most High made us to be creators, to be creative, to use our intellect and our intelligence to make things for our benefit. Okay? So it's not like we're supposed to just be sitting up in caves and remaining in the Stone Age, believing that to try to, create things that are for our benefit is a sin. That's not what the Most High intended. But again, the Most High intended for everything that we received to be given us in due time, so that we don't destroy ourselves from the things that we make with our hands. Okay? Exactly. Nothing is wrong with advancements. Excuse me. Nothing is wrong with advancements as long as we are making them for good reason. Okay? Or using them for good intent. Okay? Many of the things that we see today as just we don't even think about some of the great achievements that our forefathers were able to make and able to use in their time. We take it for granted. But these are great advancements. When you get into the law of Moses and look at some of the great things that are mentioned in the law of Moses, that's great science and understanding and wisdom and intellect that went into the law of Moses that's still useful for today. Okay? All right. Moving on. He endued them with strength by themselves and made them according to his image. So the Most High gave us strength. And with that strength, listen, we have the ability to do things that are great, that are wonderful, that are amazing. We have the ability to shape the world around us. We have the ability to advance the world around us. The Most High imparted that knowledge unto us and that strength upon us, and put fear upon all men, and put the fear of men upon all flesh, and gave him dominion over beasts of fowl and fowls, and they received the use of the 5 operations of the Lord. And in the 6th, he imparted them understanding. Check this out. Let me read this again. Verse 5. They received the use of the 5 operations of the Lord. And in the 6th place, he imparted them understanding. And in the 7th, speech, an interpreter of the cogitations thereof, counsel, and a tongue, and eyes, ears, and a heart, gave he them to understand. Withal he filled them with the knowledge of understanding, and showed them good and evil. So when we go to IBM, and it speaks about what artificial intelligence is, how it's replicating the various operations of mankind. Okay? All right, let me get back there. Artificial intelligence is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. These are all operations that the Most High imparted unto man from the beginning. Let's read them again in the book of Sirach. They received the use of the 5 operations of the Lord, and in the 6th place, he imparted them understanding, and in the 7th, speech, an interpreter of the cogitations thereof, counsel, and a tongue, and eyes, ears. This is how we perceive. Okay? With our hearts and minds, we reason. With our tongue, we're able to what? We're able to articulate our reasoning. We're able to articulate our thoughts. With our hands, we're able to manifest our creativity. Right? All of these are gifts from God. Right? Moving on. So now, what does this all have to do with artificial intelligence and its comparison to the golden calf? Let's get into it. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse number 20, to show the Most High's warning against idolatry. What does all of this have to do with idolatry? Let's get it. Let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse 20. All right, so it says here, behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. So now this is our forefathers in the wilderness. And the Most High is reassuring our forefathers that during their time in the wilderness, he will have his presence among them. His guidance would be with our forefathers all the way to the end of the wilderness journey, leading them into the promised land. Now, obviously, we all know how the story goes. We understand that our forefathers, on large, did not make it into the promised land, including Moses. But nonetheless, the Most High kept his promise by allowing his presence to be with them up until the time in which that next generation, being led by Joshua and Caleb, would enter into the promised land. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, meaning to protect thee in the way or in the path in which you're going during your time in the wilderness, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. So the Most High's presence was with us. His protection was with us. His guidance was with us. There was no need to seek at the mouth of another for any guidance. There was no need to pray to another for protection. The Most High had us covered, right? And on top of that, he gave us a warning, right? Jumping down to verse number 23. For mine angel shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works. Why? Because it wasn't the gods of the Canaanites that led you out of Egypt. It wasn't the gods of the Canaanites that plagued the Egyptians. It was not the gods of the Canaanites that parted the Red Sea and led you into the other side of the Red Sea, or led you into the wilderness. So the Most High said what? Don't trust the gods, or don't deal with the gods of the nations. Depend upon me for your protection, your guidance, your wisdom, and your understanding. Moving on, it says, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. When you come into the land and you see the idolatry or you see the idols of the Canaanites, destroy them. Don't look to their gods and wonder and ask and inquire in yourselves, how do they worship their gods? Let us try to adopt some of the practices of the Canaanites so that we can worship the Most High the same way the Canaanites worship their gods. The Most High said, don't do that. When you go into the land and you see the gods that they worship, when you see their idols, utterly destroy them. Jumping down to verse number 31. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and shall drive them out before thee. All right, let me get the exact verse. For some reason, all right, there we go. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. So now, why did the Most High want us to abstain from worshiping the gods of the nations? Well, let's get some examples why. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, verse number 3. And let's see what the nations did with their gods. Here's an example. Isaiah 19:3 says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to their idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. So the Gentiles seek their understanding, they seek their guidance, right? They seek for intellect and wisdom from who? Their gods. They seek for information from their gods. So the Most High said, don't worship the idols of the nations. The nations worship these gods to get information, to get insight. They use practices such as what? Divination, necromancy, in order to get what? What they consider to be divine insight, divine information. Okay? So the Most High said, don't seek out the idols of the nations. Don't worship their idols, or else you're going to find yourself turning to their idols to get information. Information that you're supposed to be seeking from me. How do we know this? Well, let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 9, verse 10, to show how we were supposed to receive information, how we were supposed to receive insight. Let's see. Proverbs 9 and 10. Proverbs 9 and 10 says the following. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. Again, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This is how we received insight. This is how we received information. This is how we broadened and expanded our intelligence. Number one, to receive wisdom, you must fear the Most High. To receive knowledge, you must fear the Most High. To receive understanding, you must fear the Most High. That's rule number one. Moving on to the book of James, chapter 1 and verse number 5. This is how we were supposed to receive intelligence, higher intelligence. Now we know the nations, in order for them to receive higher intelligence, they would go seek the idols, they would seek charmers, they would seek diviners, those who dealt with divination. They would seek necromancers, those who communicated with the dead. They would sacrifice children. They would worship demons. This is how they received information. This is how they received insight and information. Right? For us, on the other half, for us to receive information, number one, we had to understand that the fear of God was the beginning of wisdom, that the fear of God was the beginning of knowledge, that the fear of God was the beginning of understanding. That was rule number one. So now, check this out. The book of James 1 and 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. So if there's information that you lack, if there's wisdom that you lack, if it's knowledge that you lack, if it's higher intelligence that you lack, it says, let him ask God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given. And then it goes further to give you instructions on exactly how to ask. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Now, am I saying that it's wrong? I want to make this clear first. Am I stating that it's wrong that if you need to look something up, that you pull out your cell phone or you pull up your laptop and you do a search to get information from the cell phone or the laptop? Absolutely not. Okay? Am I saying it's wrong that if you want to do a quick search on the AI to look up some information, right, to save yourself some time, that is wrong? Absolutely not. Again, I'm dealing with this from the perspective of where this all is going. It's getting to the point. In fact, I'm putting the cart before the horse. Let me continue. I'm putting the cart before the horse. Salakia. All right, so let's get some examples, right, of those who asked the Most High and received wisdom, insight, understanding, knowledge. Let's go to King Solomon. 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter. 1 Kings, we're going to start in chapter 3, verse number 5, where it says, In Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God asked him, Ask what I shall give thee. And Solomon said, Thou hast showed unto thy servant David, my father, great mercy, according as he walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him great kindness. Thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. So fast forward for the sake of time. What did the Most High give to Solomon? Let's jump down to verse 8. It says, And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered or counted for multitude. Therefore thy servant, give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this, thy so great a people? Now, before Solomon went off and started worshiping the gods of his wives, Solomon understood that in order to receive intellect, wisdom, understanding, high intelligence, that he had to seek at the mouth of the Most High. There was no thing that Solomon could create with his bare hands that could give him the wisdom that can only be imparted from on high. There was no idol, there was no machine, there was no artificial intelligence that was greater than the intelligence that Solomon could receive from God. There was a time when Solomon understood that. Now, again, in his older age, he went off and he started seeking the idols, started worshiping the idols, and sacrificing to the idols for information. But before that, Solomon understood that he could only receive certain information, high information, if he sought at the Most High's mouth. And for the most part, we at one point understood that. Maybe not 100% to this degree as we're seeing, but there was a time in which we understood that we could only receive information through time, through patience, and through application. There was a time in which you could not take a device and automatically receive insight that would take people sometimes years to obtain. And here it is, you're getting it in a few seconds with the tap of a few buttons. We understood that you needed books, you needed to go to the library, you needed to go to a university. You had to study, you had to pay money, top money, to get certain valuable information. And some information you can only get through life, through time, through experience. Okay? Certain information could only be passed down from those that lived before you, who in their time, through their experience, through their long life and their studies and their ups and their downs, they could now impart that information unto you. Now, that information seems as if it's obsolete. But if you ask us, it's still some of the most valuable information that anyone could receive, which is information from those who have come before you. It's still valuable. There's things this computer cannot teach you. There's experiences that the computer cannot teach you. There's life lessons that the AI cannot teach you, that you can only get through those who came before you, that you can only get through living life yourself, studying and applying information yourself, and above all, seeking the Most High for yourself. So now let's get some examples of some of the information that Solomon was able to receive through seeking the Most High through prayer. Let's go to the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 7. Again, we're going back to the Apocrypha in the book, the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 7. It says, "Wherefore I prayed and understanding was given me." This is Solomon speaking. "I called upon God and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her before scepters and thrones." So notice that Solomon prayed and wisdom was imparted to him. And then it tells you the value that he put upon this wisdom. All right, let me get it so y'all can see it. Salakia. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. All right, so let's get into the wisdom that Solomon obtained, right? Through or before we get there, the fact that Solomon not only prayed so that wisdom could be imparted to him, but also the value that he placed upon wisdom. All right? All right, so moving on. It says, "I preferred her before scepters and thrones and esteemed riches, nothing in comparison of her. Neither compared I unto her any precious stone, because all gold in respect to her is as little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her." So Solomon understood the value of godly wisdom. And I have to make that clear because what? The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. There's a lot of knowledge out there, but not enough wisdom. Which is what? The application, the proper application of that knowledge that you obtain. Okay? But now just showing the value that Solomon placed on wisdom and showing you the process he had to go through to obtain this wisdom. There was nothing there that he could just tap in at the click of a button that allowed him to obtain the wisdom that he got. And we all recognize Solomon as what? Let's go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 4. 1 Kings 4. Right? 1 Solomon 4 and verse number 29. "And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding." God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding. Not Moloch, not Ashtoreth, not Saturn, right? Not Mercury. The Most High gave Solomon his wisdom. Now again, he went off eventually. But when he was in his right mind, Solomon was the wisest man on the face of the earth. And check this out. Check out what it says about Solomon when he was in his right mind. God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much in largeness of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country and all the wisdom of Egypt. So you name the wise man of his time, and Solomon excelled them. He surpassed them. Right? To the point where many of them would travel to Jerusalem to hear the sayings and the wisdom of Solomon. That's how mighty he was in wisdom. How did he obtain it? Not through an idol, not through a machine, not through a device, but through the wisdom or through praying to the Most High. Okay? For he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, and Chalcol, and Dartha, the sons of Mahal, and his fame was in all nations round about. And he spake 3,000 proverbs. And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. Check out all the things that Solomon had knowledge of. And he spake of trees, from the cedar tree that is in Lebanon, even unto the hyssop that springeth out of the wall. He spake of all beasts, and of fowl, and of creeping things, and of fishes. And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all the kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. This is all the wisdom that Solomon possessed, all of the information and all the high intelligence that he possessed. Where did he receive it from? Directly from the Most High. Now let's go back to the wisdom of Solomon. Let's jump down. Again, this is explaining the diligence and the value that Solomon put upon wisdom, true understanding. Okay? It wasn't something that he just tapped up and in a few minutes it generated responses, and there was no telling where, what's the source for this? Where's this coming from? Is this true? Is this false? Okay? It wasn't information that was left up to chance that you'll pull it up today and you're studying it today and tomorrow you're tossing it to the side. That's not the value that Solomon, or the lack of value that Solomon placed on wisdom. He actually sought it. It says, he said, take wisdom as your kinswoman. Okay? That's the love he had for wisdom. Right? So we sought this wisdom, and check this out. Check out what the Most High showed him. And tell me if this is not the same thing that they're trying, or the same knowledge they're trying to obtain today through AI, or they're trying to impart into AI. Verse 17, for he have given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made, and the operation of the elements, the beginning, the ending, and the midst of times, the alterations of the turning of the sun, and the change of seasons, the circuits of years, and the positions of stars, the natures of living creatures, and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of the winds, and the reasonings of men, the diversities of plants, and the virtues of roots, and all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know. For wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me. Now check this out. You tell me these are not all the things that we now use AI for. Tell me that these are not all the things that we use AI to now research. How the world was made. Here it is, the Bible tells you how the earth was made, but here it is, we're going to AI with some of the deepest questions, some of the deepest philosophical questions that man has ever had about this life. Okay? Siri, can you tell me how the earth was made? Copilot, can you tell me the origin of life? What's the other thing? Chat GPT, can you give me some insight on the meaning of life? Is there life on other planets? How long have we been here? You go into a machine, and again, if you decide to do so for whatever reason, for research purposes, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you're going to a man-made machine with deep philosophical questions that mankind has had on his mind since the beginning of time. Most of which can be answered by a simple perusing through the Bible. Most of which can be received by what? Searching the word of, searching the word of God. That can be received through what? Prayer, fasting, placing a value on wisdom as Solomon did. We place more trust in the device than we do what? Research, personal research, time. And I know we're living in a time in which everything is moving, or seems like everything is moving at a fast pace. It seems like as soon as you get up, it's time to go back to sleep. I get it. Okay. But a lot of that, believe it or not, a lot of time seems like it's going by fast, because a lot of time is spent where? In gigabyte land. You spend a lot of time in gigabyte land, and before you know it, I mean, you're going to be sitting there looking at the phone, and an hour and a half go by, and you just asking yourself, what just happened? 2 hours go by. Yo, where did the time go? Man, they must be doing something with the time. Time is speeding up. Nah, you just spent 2-3 hours looking at the cell phone. Okay, that's where your time went. Okay, I seen something yesterday. Somebody philosophizing that they did something with the time during COVID. They changed the time up. I'm like, no, the time didn't change. You changed. Okay, you spending all that time on the devices. I mean, hours are wasting away. Okay, so the thing is this. Point I'm making is that I know that things seem like they're moving at a faster pace, and we need things immediately. And again, the resources that we have at our fingertips, again, these things can be used for positivity. They can be used for good. And if you're researching information pertaining to the Most High and the bringing forth of his kingdom, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using these devices. But this is a warning to let everyone know to be careful. Because yes, right now we're able to use it. We're able to listen. There's a scripture that I got is right there at the tip of my head, and I can't really use the eastward to look it up because I can't get the wording right. Right? So if I pull up this Copilot and I kind of type it in vaguely, it'll give me some results to where I can look in the right direction. Right? I get it. Okay? Absolutely nothing wrong with it. The point I'm getting to is the fact that with everything that's introduced into society, as much as there is a positive, what's the word I'm looking for? As much as it can be used as a benefit, We have to always remember that there is an ultimate goal, which means our detriment, which means our destruction. And it just so happens with this so-called AI that it's not, it wasn't just created so you can look up a scripture that you can't remember. It wasn't just created so that you can create cool little videos and cool little images and create books here and there. It can be used for that, and it's good if you use it for that, but that wasn't its ultimate intention. The intent of AI, the purpose for AI's creation is to rival mankind's existence. That's the purpose of AI. Is to rival your very existence. Right now, as we speak, they're talking about how these, what do they call it? The AI, what do they call it? The power stations or whatever stations they use for this AI technology that is contaminating the water. And it takes thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of gallons of water for these I don't want to call them factories. Is a word I'm looking for right there at the tip of my tongue. I know somebody will put it in the chat. But these places where they use to produce energy for the AI technology to work, it's taken hundreds of thousands of gallons of water for these to service these machines. So right there, what is that showing you? What is that telling you? That AI technology is rivaling mankind for resources. The AI needs your resources. It's rivaling you for your resources. You need water to survive, but so does the AI. So eventually, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to these various resources that are needed for this thing to operate and function? Who you think is going to receive the precedent or the preeminence when it comes to the necessity of these resources? Who you think is going to get, to put it plainly, who you think is going to get first dibs on the water? It's going to be the AI. Okay? So, power plants. Okay, that's what they're called. Right? The power plants. Right? So we're looking at it as just a technology that we can use in the virtual universe. But the virtual universe, the technology that's being used to fuel the virtual universe, is using very real resources. Is using real resources. Okay? It's no different than in the ancient world. What they do when they created an idol, what they do with the idol, they gave it meat offerings. They gave it drink offerings. Right? They sought that idol for information and insight. Today with the AI, they're giving it meat offerings, spiritual meat offerings. How so? How do you think the AI is getting all of its information? How do you think it's being programmed? It's using you as a resource. You are fueling AI with all the information it has. You are the meat offering. The drink offering. It needs water to operate, to function. Your water is the drink offering. Okay? Let's get back to it. So again, these are all things that we would use. Now we're using technology to research. When in the past, they had to seek the Most High. Right? And when a man was found, when there was found a man in the earth who was known to deal with the Most High, and he received this knowledge, people then went to that man and asked that they now sought that man to receive this high intelligence and information. Okay? Because they understood how valuable it was. So you're going to AI to know what? How the world was made. You're going to AI to know what? The operation of the elements. You're going to AI to know what? The history of the beginning, the end, and the midst of times. You're going to the AI to ask questions about history, questions about the end, right? You're going to AI to learn about the alterations of the turning of the sun. You're going to AI to learn about the change of seasons, the circuits of the years, the position of the stars, the nature of living creatures, and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of the winds. These are all things now people are relegating to artificial intelligence. Now, you know how many different books you would have to get in times past in order to access this different information? You're talking about what? You're talking about what? The beginning, the midst, and the end of times. The beginning of times. You're talking about history books. The end of times. You're talking about prophecy. The alteration of the sun. You're talking about what? Meteorology. The study of plants. You're talking about botany. The study of animals. You're talking about books on zoology. You would have to get tons of different records to pull them together and get this information in ancient time, which means what? You valued the information more, right? You could get encyclopedias as well, right? But the encyclopedia is the starting point. That's the reference point to give you a foundation of what the topic is about. But now from the encyclopedia, the good encyclopedia should have what? It should have a list of sources from which that encyclopedia is receiving and documenting its information. So now you couldn't stop at the encyclopedia. You had to now look at the books that the encyclopedia used to put together that article. And then you had to go into those books. And then in those books have sources and other books that it refers to. And sometimes you have to go and get those books. Okay? So it's different. So now, even though it's good to be able to get information at your fingertips instantaneously, because it's so easy to obtain the information, is not as valued as it once was. Whereas before, it took so much time, so much blood, sweat, and tears, sleepless nights to get information and pull it together. You appreciated it when you was able to crack the code. You appreciated it when you pulled it together. Now it's so quick and easy. I mean, you're able to research so many different things within the space of an hour that do you really appreciate the information after you get it? Or is it like a new toy that you get and soon afterwards you toss it to the side because it was just so easy to obtain? Right? All right, moving on. I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit. Here's another aspect of wisdom and knowledge, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 29 and 29. Because the easier it becomes to access information, right? The more there's a desire to know anything and everything. When in reality, we were not created to know everything. There's certain things that were not meant for us to learn, not in a short space of time. It goes back to what you can read this in the book of Enoch. I want to say Enoch, the 10th chapter, which says that the things that the fallen angels taught mankind were things that mankind desired to know. But they revealed these things to mankind in a short space of time. And through the knowledge, mankind destroyed himself. Okay? The Bible says what? Let me get it real quick about honey. Let me get it real quick. I'm going to go to the book of Proverbs 24 and 13. Proverbs 24 and 13. Check this out. Proverbs 24 and 13. My son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb, which is sweet to thy taste. So shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul. When thou hast found it, then shalt there be a reward, and thy expectation shall not be cut off. So the Bible says that wisdom and knowledge is like honey. It says consume it because it's good to you. That's how it feels when you receive knowledge, when you receive wisdom, when you receive understanding. It's like honey to the taste. So the Bible says eat it, consume it. Okay? But now check this out. Let's jump down to verse number 27. Or let's go to 25 and 27. 25 and 27. It is not good to eat much honey. It is not good to eat much honey. So, yes, when you get information, when the Most High is feeding you tidbits of information at a time, every time you get that new little piece of honey or that new little drop of a honeycomb, it's sweet to the taste buds. You appreciate it. The Bible says it's not good to eat much honey. Why? Too much information at one time, what happens? Ecclesiastes 1 and let me see. Ecclesiastes 1. Let me get it. It's been a while. Verse number 18. Wisdom of Solomon, or Ecclesiastes in the Bible 1 and 18. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. And that's what easy access to information at your fingertips has done. Too much information at once has driven people crazy. People are depressed. People are harming themselves. Why? Because they got access to too much at once. They're able to see into too many windows at once. They're able to access too many different lives of others at once. And if you're not careful, taking in all of this information, taking in everybody's problems, taking in everybody's successes, taking in everybody's failures, taking in everybody's devastation and catastrophes all at once. And the reality is that you have no power to change anything one way or the other. You have no power to change any of these situations one way or the other. So what happens? You start to become depressed. You start to become sorrowful. Why can't my life be like this person's life? Or why is this person's life so bad? Or this is so sad. How could this happen? And how could this be happening in the world? You're taking in all these problems. With all this information, all this knowledge you're getting at your fingertips, it's coming sorrow. Okay? So yes, get information. It's like honey. It's like a bite of a honeycomb. Don't eat too much honey. Why? Because too much wisdom, too much knowledge at once, it increases sorrow. Such thing as analysis paralysis. You got so many different choices at once with so much information at once, you don't do anything. It's like you get paralyzed because it's just too much going on at once in your mind. Too many ideas, too many thoughts, and it seems like too many choices to make all at once. Right? So let's get back to it. I gotta finish up. Uh Deuteronomy 29 and 29. Deuteronomy 29 and 29. What are we showing you? We're not supposed to know everything all at once. We're not supposed to know everything about everything. Okay? Deuteronomy 29 and 29 says, "The secret things belong unto the Lord our God." So there are secrets about this universe that you and I will probably never know. There's things about this world that we'll probably never get to the bottom of. Not until we sit before our Lord and He decides to give us the insight to some of the questions that we've always had. But you see, Solomon had to, his whole life was seeking wisdom from on high, seeking wisdom from the mouth of God. And it's only through then that the Most High started to reveal things to him about pretty much everything on earth. Okay? But there's a reason why Solomon is a special case, right? And as somebody stated, read Proverbs. That's the beautiful thing about what was revealed to the prophets and what was revealed to those of old. Everything that was given them is documented for the most part in Scripture. But again, there's going to be things that we don't know the answer to and will never have the answer to, not until Christ reveals it to us. The secret things belong unto the Most High. But now, because everything is at your fingertips, now you're searching just about anything and everything, trying to get the answer and the knowledge on anything and everything. The Bible says the secret things belong unto the Most High. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and our children. There's certain things that the Most High have given us, for our benefit, and we are to be satisfied with that. Anything else that the Most High decides to reveal to us, it's a blessing. We appreciate it. But understand that there's just going to be certain things that you just will not be able to understand. There's questions that you will never be able to answer. Okay? And you have to be okay with that. Right? Now let's get to this golden calf. Last portion of this. Let's get to the golden calf. Let's go to Exodus 32. Is AI the new golden calf? Exodus 32 and 1, which says the following. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met. That's Genesis. Let me go to Exodus 32 and 1. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as this man Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not, meaning we know not, what has become of him. So when Moses delayed to come down from the mount, the people started to lose their mind. Why? Well, when you get into who Moses was and how the Most High was using Moses, Moses was essentially the go-between between the Most High and the people of Israel. The Most High said that he would make, in fact, let me read it real quick. In Exodus chapter 6 and 29. That the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I am the Lord, speak unto Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, all that I say unto thee. And Moses said before the Lord, Behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. So that's the status that Moses had before Pharaoh and the people of Israel. Okay? He was the direct go-between between the Most High, the Pharaoh, and the Israelites. It was through Moses that the Israelites received their guidance. It was through Moses that the Israelites received understanding, guidance. Okay? So when Moses disappeared, they looked at it as, well, that go-between, that communicator, the conduit between us and the Most High is gone. So now, let us make our own go-between. Let us make our own God, who we can now seek in our own timing. Right? Let's make something that we can seek and search out ourselves. We don't know what happened to Moses, but now we have an opportunity to create our own artificial God. And Aaron said unto them, Break off your earrings, which are in the ears of your wives and your sons and of your daughters, and bring them to me. So now take the resources that God, the same God that you're about to rebel against, gave to you on your way out of Egypt. Remember, it was the Most High who stated what? Borrow of the Egyptians. It was the Most High who put it on the heart of the Egyptians to give the Israelites gold and silver and jewelry and earrings and costly stones and array. The Most High blessed them with that. So they're going to take the resources that the Most High blessed them with and use it to make an artificial replica of God. To make an artificial replica of the Almighty. The same almighty power that delivered them from the hand of Egypt, with mighty signs and wonders. No different than mankind does what? He takes the minerals, takes the metals, takes the various things out of the earth, which God, mind you, the Most High put these things in the earth. He put the minerals in the earth. He put the precious metals in the earth. And they take those same minerals and precious metals to create machines that they believe will rival the intelligence of the Most High. That they believe will rival the intelligence of the image of the Most High. Right? And all of the people break off the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them unto Adam. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So they attributed all of the divine guidance, the divine wisdom, the deliverance, and the protection that they received being guided out of Egypt to an artificial god, a golden calf. The Most High did all the work, the real intelligence did all the work, but the artificial got all the credit. Right? Moving on, it says here, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to drink and rose up to play. So now they're worshiping the golden calf. They're worshiping the artificial power, something they made with their own hands, something that they shaped, decked out, and beautified with their own hands. Now they're worshiping it. Now they're going to the golden calf with song, with dance. Now they're seeking the same exact guidance and wisdom they would seek from Moses. Now they're seeking it from the golden calf. Now we all know the story. We know what eventually would happen. Okay? So we don't want to go through the whole thing, but this is what we mean when we ask the question, is AI the new golden calf? Is this thing that we have created with our own hands, with the resources and the intellect that the Most High imparted in us, are we using that to create something that will not only attempt to turn us against the Most High, but that eventually will turn against us in an attempt to rival the Most High? Have we created our own destruction? Just like the people in the wilderness, through creating that idol, they eventually created their own destruction. Because many, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, 3,000 people died as a result of creating this golden calf. Are we doing the same thing with artificial intelligence? All right, few more scriptures before we close out. Let's go to Isaiah 44:9. Let's get into the folly of idolatry. And let's see if it's any different than what we witnessed today with the creation of technology. Isaiah 44, verse 9. Check this out. They that make a graven image, all of them are vanity. And their delectable things shall not profit, and they are their own witness. They see not, nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who have formed a god, or a molten image, or a graven image, that is profitable for nothing? Verse 11. Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen, they are of men. Let them all be gathered together, let them stand up. Yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. Speaking of those who create graven images and trust in graven images. Verse 12, check this out. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals. So the smith being what? The blacksmith, who works with what? It says with the tongs. Those are the instruments that he uses to shape his work as a blacksmith. Okay? So the smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh with the strength of his arm. So this is a man using his strength and his intellect, his mind that the Most High gave him to create something that he's now going to turn around and worship. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint. Meaning, this man works himself to exhaustion to create this idol. No different than men in our current time, they work themselves to mental, physical, and spiritual exhaustion to bring these technologies into the world. And many of them are saying to themselves that we don't know why or what's on us that has us so, so uh, uh, um, pretty much consumed with bringing this into existence. We know it's going to be a detriment eventually. We know it's going to harm us eventually. But there's just something on us consuming us to bring this into the earth, to bring this to pass. Right? So they labor into utter exhaustion, attempting to bring forth this idol, or in our time, this new technology into the earth. Right? The carpenter stretcheth out his rule, he maketh it with a line. He fitteth it with planes, and marketh it out with the compass, and maketh it as the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man. So in the ancient world, what they would do is they would take, again, the blacksmith or the carpenter or the artificer would work to create an idol that took on the resemblance of a man. Today we call them statues. Right? And they would worship this idol that they created, that they shaped in the image or the resemblance of a man. Now, when you look at artificial intelligence, when you look at some of the things they're creating these things in what? The image of a man. Okay? They're creating these things in the image of a man. In fact, they're trying their best to make these things as lifelike or as manlike as possible. You see? They applaud themselves on their ability to create what? The best image, as it says in the book of Wisdom of Solomon 14. The artificer labors to make the best image. They're laboring to make that thing that looks more closely or most closely to that of a man, or something that is close to being lifelike or human-like. No different than the ancient idolaters who made images and idols in the resemblance of men. Same thing. It goes on to say that it remained in the house, that they would put these things in their homes, these idols, these statues. He heweth down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengthened for himself among the trees of the forest. He planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. So in other words, it's speaking about how this man who's creating the idol, he's going out. He's the one that's doing all the work to chop down the tree. He's doing all the work to now shape that tree into a resemblance of a man. He's even going out and planting his own trees so that he can make more idols. The man is doing all the work. But now check this out. Verse number 15. He's doing all the labor. Right? And it's remember again, it's his intellect that's bringing this into existence. It's his intelligence as a man, and his ability as a man that's bringing this into existence. Then it shall be for a man to burn, so that same tree that he's chopping down, he's using that wood to burn, for he will take thereof and warm himself. So that same tree that he chopped down for wood, some of the wood he's going to use to put on the fireplace to keep himself warm. Yea, he kindleth it and baketh bread. Some of that wood he's going to use to put in the wood oven and make himself something to eat. Yea, he maketh a god and worshipeth it. So the same wood he's using to feed himself and to keep himself warm, he's going to use the same exact wood to create for himself a god. Which again goes back to what? When you're talking about in modern times, the same resources, the same metals, and the same things that mankind would use for his benefit, he's now going to take those same things and use it to create a machine that's going to rival him. That now he's going to be sitting and kneeling at the feet of, asking questions, trying to get insight, trying to get intelligence from a machine that he created. You gave the machine its power. You gave it its wisdom. You gave the machine its life. And now you're bowing to the machine, asking the machine for insight, asking the machine for guidance. He maketh it a graven image and falleth down thereto. So could you imagine somebody going in the backyard, cutting down a tree? Keep in mind, it was his power that cut the tree down. The tree itself, yes, a tree has life, but once you cut it down, that thing is lifeless. Okay? So he takes this lifeless piece of wood that he shaped and he toiled over. It says that he didn't even stop to give himself a break. He didn't eat. He didn't drink. He's over the fire, so he's exhausted to bring this thing to pass, to bring this thing into existence. And after all that, he's now going to bow down and worship it. Right? That's what it looks like to the Most High when you create this so-called artificial intelligence that you're now going to turn around, and now you're going to look to it for divine answers and wisdom and understanding, insight. What shall we do? What shall I do? Right? Verse 16, he burneth part thereof in the fire. With part thereof he eateth flesh. One moment. He roast, and is satisfied. He warmeth himself and saith, Aha, I am warm. I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, Deliver me, for thou art my God. You see how foolish this is? He turned to the thing which he made with his bare hands and told it to deliver me, for you are my God. Right? So now the question is, how do we look when, again, we created the machine, we created the intelligence? It's pulling from our minds, it's pulling from our responses and what we feed it, and then we're going to turn around and look at this thing as if it is this great purveyor of high knowledge and wisdom that we can just get at the the speed of our fingertips, to the point where people are going to be, don't be surprised if you don't see it, it don't already exist, where people have artificial intelligence religions, where they're outright worshiping artificial intelligence. Every sci-fi movie we ever seen, going back to the 80s and the 90s, when artificial intelligence reached its height, it always ended with what? Mankind now giving servitude to the artificial intelligence. Right? So is this the direction we're going in? Is this where the world is turning to, where now our dependence will not be on the Most High and what He can reveal to us, but what the AI can reveal to us? And for those who think that way, those who believe that the AI will be of a greater service to them, the Bible says this, last two scriptures. Isaiah 8 and 16. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, and I will wait upon the Lord, that hideth his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord have given me are signs and for wonders in Israel. For the Lord of hosts which dwelleth in Zion. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits. Again, this is people seeking unto the idols and those who worship idols. Seek unto them that have familiar spirits and unto wizards. Salakia, one moment. And unto wizards that peep and that mutter. Should not a people seek unto their God? Should you not rather seek the Most High than to seek an idol which you made yourself? Than to seek something which you made with your own hands, with your own intelligence and intellect? Should you not seek the Most High who imparted upon you your intellect, your being, your life? He goes on to say, for the living to the dead. This was happening. The living is seeking the dead for answers. The artificial intelligence, when you get down to it, it's a bunch of nuts and bolts and wires. It has no life. It only has the life that we have given it. So it's the living seeking the dead for answers. The Most High goes on to say what? To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So the time is going to come in which we're going to have to rely on the God who gave us what? The law and the testimony, the gospel. And it's from that we're going to be responsible, or we're going to need to seek our answers, to seek for guidance, to seek for understanding and information. Because for us, the more society advances, in order for us to survive, we're going to have to pull away and start getting used to the old way. As the Bible says, they shall seek the old ways and the old paths. We're going to have to learn how to survive according to the old ways before all of this technology progressed to where it is. Because it's leading to one aim and one end, one goal, which is what? The mark of the beast. That's where all of this is going. So now, last scripture, Isaiah 47 and 10. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, and thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. And mischief shall fall upon thee, and thou shalt not be able to put it off. Your artificial intelligence is not going to be able to help you in this day. Your AI is not going to be able to help you in this day. Your smart technology will not be able to help you in this day. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers and stargazers and monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from the things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. So the time will come in which the AI will burn. And all those who fall and bow and succumb and submit to the will of the AI, which is the mark of the beast system, they will burn along with it. The question is, where will we stand in all of this? Who will we begin to seek for our knowledge, our understanding, our intellect, our intelligence? With that, I want to say bless you all. May the Most High be with you all. And we're going to conclude here. Again, tomorrow in the Academy, we have a lesson, an updated lesson on the breakdown of modern Christianity. You don't want to miss that lesson. Go to historytimes.org if you are interested. Also, if you're interested in supporting the I Am Royal Academy for the children, okay, you can go to historytimes.org, go to donate, and in the donate options, you do have options to support and donate to the Academy. Again, it's a free, faith-based online school for our children that the church has provided for free. But if you would like to support to help with the upkeep, that will be greatly appreciated. With that, I want to say bless you all and shalom, and may you all enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. And for those who are in the Academy, if it be the Most High's will, we will see you tomorrow in the Academy. With that, I want to say bless you all. Shabbat shalom.